Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeremy, and I am with Joseph as well as John here to talk about some of the announcements and updates going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Honestly, there are a ton of things, and we're going to be moving through these pretty quickly, as well as we might miss one or two things that they've talked about or that exists.
That's just because there's so much.
There's so many things. We're trying to get everything here, but if we miss something, then we're so sorry. We still are excited about it. And let's kind of jump in kind of with those things going in.
Yep.
So Black Widow is a big one that's being anticipated. It's been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and we're finally getting it. Any big notes to this? We've had a lot of news, a lot of things that have already been explored.
I think the biggest thing about it is it's done. It's been ready for...
It was going to be released earlier this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
by the time we get it, it might be about a year later than it was supposed to be released.
Yeah. Anyways, for me, I'm just really excited about this property. It's one that I thought we should bring up, mention right out of the gate, because it's going to be one of the first things that we get out of all of these lists, because it's ready and it's going to be finally released soon.
I believe they said March.
Yeah.
Which I believe is a year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
From that
the
original
date.
Another thing that's going to be out soon and that we've seen trailers for and different things for a while is WandaVision.
Which looks fun.
It's going to be so cool.
It looks like a crazy what-if scenario. I don't even know what's happening with it. I mean, you have all sorts of things. Like, you have a Vision with, like, the Mind Stone in his head again. It's like, wasn't that destroyed? And all these different questions. Like, how is any of this even possible?
Yeah. We have to understand that Wanda has chaos magic, and she is extremely, extremely, extremely powerful. And this could be used or abused by others in multiple ways to put her in a position and a situation to come up with things for herself, try to change reality itself. There's a lot of different ways that we can potentially be doing what we're seeing, and it's not 100% clear how we're making it come about, but there's definitely something here.
Looking forward to it. Should be fun.
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing I'm excited for is just all the different costumes, the different ways to explore how these things from the comics, these looks and styles, like how they really do work on screen, or how maybe they don't work.
There are reasons why they took off the crown thingy.
Yeah. I think that they're going to be playing around with a lot of film styles. For example, if they're they have some old-timey funny looks, and I bet they're going to try and play with some old-timey funny camera tricks and such to make it look good in that style.
Which will be fun.
It'll be fun.
Another one that's coming out relatively soon on this like long timeline of actually a couple of years is What If. This is an animated project, and I am tremendously excited for the exploration that it's going to be able to afford.
Interesting storytelling. Small changes that end up being really big in the end.
It's just playing around with things. Like, what if Peggy Carter became the captain instead of Steve Rogers?
Yeah.
That's a big one, I think.
And What If is a series that has been in comics from Marvel for years and years. There's a lot of stuff that they've had, and I'm really excited about having that here in the future. Another one that we're going to be getting that's been announced for a while is Shang-Chi. I have recently started reading the new series, and if you guys are excited about finding more about Shang-Chi and that world, because it's one that hasn't been around in comics for a while, they're starting out a new series, and it's a great place, a great resource. Another character that we're going to be exploring, and it's going to be really fun, is Miss Marvel. Kamala Khan is an amazing character and someone I'm really, really excited for. I have had a 60-second bio description for her that you can check out. It's on the YouTube channel, so that's a great resource there. I think this will be a really, really fun series.
I believe it has a lot of potential for looking at the younger characters again. The run of the Marvel characters so far have all been the adults. Now with Peter Parker, of course, and Miss Marvel, we're going to start looking at some of the younger Marvel characters, and that will be neat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something that's kind of Marvel but not Marvel is Spider-Man 3, and that's just, not necessarily a big part of this list, but should be noted.
Yep.
They're working on production. There's a lot of rumors going around. We'll see what really ends up happening with it, and as all of those rumors filter down and we've actually finally discovered what actually is going to go on, I don't want to spend too much time with it just because there's lots of speculation and things, and I just want to be able to be pretty definite about what I'm talking about when talking about it. But that's coming, and that's something to be excited about with that younger generation.
Yep.
The Falcon and Winter Soldier. Now, this is a series that I think has tremendous potential for to be fun.
It should be really fun.
And
it should also be a little funny because they have some of that friends but not really friends dynamic.
Frenemy.
Yes.
They're friends
Conflict.
because of a mutual friend that they had, so it's kind of
Yes.
developing their own friendship.
yes,
Their
and
own
that
dynamic.
that is what I'm looking forward to, honestly, the most.
Right.
They've recently had a Falcon Winter Soldier comic run. It was very short, and with COVID kind of even cut shorter and put on hiatus to a degree. So you're only getting a couple of issues with that series, but it's been very fun and cool, and something that I think, again, a great resource to look at what the dynamic of these characters could be like in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Marvel 2, that has really just been simply announced, but it's exciting, it's cool, and I'm ready for more Captain Marvel. And
She has a ton of stories, so it'll be interesting to see what they choose to do.
Totally. Hawkeye. This one, we've actually had a little bit of production images being released, and it's confirmed that Kate Bishop is going to be a part of the show, and I think that's going to be really cool.
I think that's going to be the most interesting part, is Hawkeye training this younger female Hawkeye to, it sounds like, take over for him even.
Yeah.
It should be an interesting dynamic.
He was always the one with a family and reasons to step out of the superhero light if possible.
Yeah, well, though all of that, had been frustrated because of the things that happened in Infinity War. And so he's in a different emotional place.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how they deal with him and all those type of struggles as well. Kate Bishop has been a recent addition to the Marvel's Avengers game. And as they've been trying to expand those characters out from that. So if you want to learn a little bit more about her as a character, maybe playing that game, repicking it up is a good resource for that. She-Hulk. I absolutely love She-Hulk. Jen is a cool character. I honestly might like She-Hulk a little bit more than I like Hulk. And
she's pretty fun.
She is a lawyer in the comics, and obviously she goes and fights. She has been an Avenger, like the Hulk member in the Avengers at different times. So there's not a ton that we know about this, but I'm getting excited.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll pull a lot of her lawyer stuff. One thing that would be fun is if they pull in Daredevil, because he's also a lawyer, and they could have some interesting dynamics there. I'm not sure what they could or could not do.
Different possibilities that they could explore. All right, Moonknight. Moonknight is cool. Joseph, you want to talk a little about that?
Sometimes he's described as the Batman of the Marvel universe. It doesn't sound like they're playing exactly into that story arc. It's from what was announced, it sounds like they're going to be drawing on some multiple personality issues, drawing on a lot of Egyptian mythology for
it. Big part of who he is and all that. Yeah.
I don't think we should expect a Batman of the Marvel.
No.
It doesn't sound like they're exactly playing that. So we'll see what they do with it. Yeah. It should be fun.
Yeah, they kind of make the comparison because he's like the Dark Knight Crusader, and there are definitely parallels, but he's a very unique, his own character. So we'll see what comes out of that. One that has been coming forward that we've known about for a little while. Again, that should be noted is the Eternals is still progressing in its production. It's moving forward, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It's going to be a little bit more space opera than the others.
Yeah, they are recently working on an Eternals comic series. Maybe this is a run to get people excited for
probably
that
reignite the interest.
And so again, if that's something you're excited about learning more about, there's going to be some resources there.
Yep.
An interesting upcoming thing for me is going to be Secret Invasion, because they've already introduced the Skrull as kind of good guys already.
Right?
So this is going to be really interesting. Do we have a bad faction, which the good faction is going to try and stop? Like how is this going to work?
Were the amount of Skrull that we saw the good faction, and most of the Skrull are bad?
Right.
I don't know.
We have very little knowledge of what this is going to be.
So with Secret Invasion, essentially, like the premise inside of the comics was that these Skrull can shapeshift, and so they start taking over different roles like politicians and superheroes, and they're having this secret invasion by replacing people, and you don't know ultimately if the person you're fighting beside is a sleeper agent and will suddenly turn on you, or if it's genuinely your friend. And that is a cool premise, cool setup. And
if they do it right, this could be done really, really well.
That to me, so far on this list, there's a lot of things I'm excited about, but this might be one of the ones I'm most excited about so far.
More interesting, possibly, considering the previous connections. Captain Marvel 2 might be giving us a little bit of entry into it. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Cool connections there.
Yeah.
Deadpool 3, just to be noted, it's going to be the first rated R MCU movie. And
oh yeah, Deadpool is MCU now.
He's going to be making that transition into the cinematic universe. And we don't have much more news except for it's happening, and they're going to maintain the R status. At least that's in their intent through the writing process, as of we stand right now.
It's Deadpool.
No. Ironheart. Riri Williams is really, really cool. A young protege mechanic and electrical engineer and all of these things, who is kind of tapped on the shoulder of Iron Man, and in the comics ultimately takes on that Iron Man role after the death of Tony Stark. Well, we've had that, and so it's a great opportunity and time to introduce Ironheart and bring her in.
It'll be interesting to see if they use the Tony Stark AI.
Right, that was a really fun thing. Is instead of Jarvis in Iron Man's ear inside of the suit, is that they had a AI intelligence for Tony, who was barking at her and insulting her sometimes, and being Tony Stark. And I don't know, that'd be cool.
Well, we'll see what they do.
I don't anticipate that necessarily happening.
I don't know. Disney, of course, has enough money to get Robert Downey Jr. in a recording booth if they really wanted to.
But also, like, he kind of said, I'm done. I'm moving forward, and we might just respect that and do something else with the AI. So
maybe she'll get Friday,
which would be cool.
That would work.
Armor Wars.
Armor Wars will be interesting. It's described as Tony's worst nightmare come true. In the first Iron Man, he is freaked out because he finds his company was selling their regular weapons under the table. What happens when his highly advanced armor is taken and used by others? We had some of this with Ultron, because the IA took over his suits, but now to have terrorists or other enemies have control of his suits, and Tony himself now is gone, so Iron Patriot and Ironheart will probably be involved in that story to save the day.
So I mean, this is essentially a War Machine story.
Yeah.
And whether he's going by Iron Patriot or War Machine at this moment,
right?
But that's going to be that character who's going to ultimately be taking the lead and having to deal with the ramifications of this because Tony's not here.
Yep.
Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
I feel like this is somewhat of a joke on the Star Wars Holiday Special.
That crossed my mind as well.
It could totally see this just being a complete joke.
But I think
somewhat serious of a joke.
I think they'll be able to have a lot more fun with it because of the cast. It is going to be live action. We'll have all of our loved characters there. I'm just waiting to see Drax in a Santa hat. That's
right. I mean, think of this. This is like Star-Lord going, guys, I'm going to teach you about Earth and Christmas and the meaning of Christmas. He could be like all super serious about this and go on this like funny Christmas journey.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be hilarious.
It will be so fun. I have high hopes for it just being a riot and a future holiday tradition film to watch because it could just be so lighthearted and so quirky, and all of his friends being like, why would you kiss under a dead stick?
Right?
Yep. It would be really fun.
Another one that's kind of linked with that, I Am Groot. That right there sold me. You don't have to say anymore. Done. I'm done. Like, boom, you've got me.
Well, we can describe the whole movie plot with I Am Groot.
Right? A lot of dialogue here in this.
I just can't speak Groot, so I can't understand what it's actually titled or anything.
Right.
Will be animated and keyed more for a younger audience.
Which is great.
Yep. Gonna be partially interesting because if it's going to be like a Groot origin story, he has a kind of dark one where it's like the classic last of his species type deal.
It's when he's still baby Groot.
Just in the potted plant doing the dance.
Maybe starting there, yeah. So
I want to see him hopping in his pot.
Right?
To get around. That's what I'm ready for.
The angsty teenage years that we saw at the end of Guardians.
Maybe.
Thor, Love and Thunder. This is one that has been announced for a while.
Yep.
We've got, a lot of the casting figured out now. I'm thrilled because Mighty Thor, the female version of Thor, is a character I had really grown to love in the comics. And if it's like 10% of that in quality, like I'm going to be totally on board. We've got a great director and team involved with it. And if you liked Ragnarok, I think we're going to be having similar flavors.
Similar, more lighthearted, fun.
Yeah. I think the only way they could have topped this is if they did Throg instead. You know the comics I'm talking about now?
Oh, I do! Oh, man.
But yeah, this is Jane Foster with the powers of Thor, and Thor either being unworthy or having given up the title, probably going by the name Odin's son instead of Thor. He even gave up the title of his name. So, this will be interesting.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantummania.
Ant-Man is easily the most fun of all of the movies in the MCU. I watched that one like 4 times just because it's so fun to watch. So I'm always looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
Playing with Quantum, they can do anything. They already played with Quantum for time travel as a big thing in Avengers Endgame.
Right, so they've opened up this door,
it's also,
and now we're able to maybe explore this, which we've opened up.
It's also kind of the gateway to parallel dimensions and etc., so I could see it being a different approach to that other than Doctor Strange. So, I don't know. They could do a lot of directions with this.
Right, with Doctor Strange 2, we're going to have the Multiverse of Madness, and that is one that is going to open up a lot of doors for alternate characters. Maybe explain a little bit about like the Sony verse that's starting to grow, which I'm excited about. That those are going to be a thing. Again, that's not necessarily the MCU.
Sony still wants to keep hold of some of their properties too, even though they do see the benefit of having some crossover relationship. For example, Venom, Tom Hardy, and Tom Holland Spider-Man maybe would be a good mix every now and then. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be very creative to see what comes out of this same but not the same universe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Black Panther 2 has been, announced that that's going to be a thing that they're trying to be working towards. That was announced a long time ago, and now obviously is being reworked and re-examined, but from my understanding, we're not going to have a recast of Black Panther, and I think a lot of people are really pleased with that decision. Chadwick Boseman was an amazing performer, and also I think it's an amazing human from more and more that I read about him. And there are people who've taken on the Black Panther mantle, and
others in the comics,
and we could see them go a different approach with this, with still giving his performance, respect, as well as just letting it go without having to recast and see a new face.
Yeah,
right.
Including the character Storm from X-Men, which Marvel, Disney having bought Fox, they now have access to all of those characters if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Obviously, they probably try to do it in a different spin. They might go some interesting pathways with it. They've already introduced Inhumans, so as a comic reader, I've always had the hardest time saying, what's the difference between Inhumans and X-Men? So it'll be interesting to see how they possibly mix in some of those elements into the future.
Yeah. With the acquisition, where we got the X-Men, we also got the Fantastic Four, those being Fox properties.
And that was teased of a possible Fantastic Four film.
It is confirmed they're going to be working on a Fantastic Four.
Oh.
And I am really excited. It's been now had 2 iterations. We've had 2 different iterations of Spider-Man before the current one, and the current one has been well loved and well received, and they've done a really, really good job. And so just because we've had Fantastic Fours in the past, doesn't mean that we shouldn't explore them now. I think there's still awesome
really
things
well
to explore.
done, and we just have to wait and see.
It's one of the original teams of heroes in comics.
Yes.
It's kind of helped establish that as a foundation, and we've got tons of potential here. I think that these characters are really, really cool, and with their children inside of the comics, that links in with X-Men and other types of stuff that they could be doing in the future. What I notice on all of this list, on things that we've talked about that have been announced, as well as things that we maybe haven't included in our list of things that we're talking about, is there were no announcements with X-Men.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm ready for X-Men characters.
We did have an announcement for Loki, but we didn't have an announcement for any X-Men or anything at all.
X-Men. I also want to see Ghost Spider. I think they could have so much fun if they did a really good job with Gwenpool.
That would be so cool.
That would be so fun.
That could be their more safe for work Deadpool. I don't know how they would about some of these things.
But as we're hitting those, you mentioned Loki again, we haven't talked about yet. The end of that trailer that we saw has that Vote Loki thing. I remember that comic book event. It was so fun. And that one was super, super cool. And I'm ready for more Loki by Tom Hiddleston.
Oh, yes.
I think everyone is.
Yeah.
He did a great job with it.
So guys, what are things that you are excited for? What's the one thing that you're most ready to see? Let us know in the comments below. I am just thrilled and super excited about this. For you guys, what are some of your biggest things that you're most excited about?
I think I'm going to be most excited for Guardians of the Galaxy, just because I think they're hilarious. It's kind of like if you mixed comedy and a space opera, and that was a very fun mix. In fact, it was probably because of Guardians of the Galaxy that Thor Ragnarok was able to do so well. They kind of realized that Thor was a little dry, and they mixed in a lot of the kind of freestyle humor.
Yeah.
And I did notice that Thor Ragnarok felt almost more like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie than a Thor movie, and I loved that new direction. It was good.
Yeah.
I am excited first for Black Widow because I've been waiting so long for that one.
Totally, yeah.
Just like give it to us by now.
Yes, but Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm gonna be there every week to catch those new episodes.
Totally.
So.
For me, I'm really, really excited about that younger generation, and I'm going to include She-Hulk in that younger generation as well, which is maybe debatable on that. But like Ironheart, Miss Marvel, Kate Bishop with Hawkeye, and She-Hulk. Like, I'm ready for these characters that are relatively new and to have them be explored and talked about, because there's some amazing newer generation characters, and I think it's going to help re-excite kind of what the next phase of the cinematic universe can be. And when we introduce all of these inside of like Disney Plus, and a lot of those are where that is going to land. Some of these, of course, go into theaters, being movies, but it just, I think, opens the door for more and more really cool things for Marvel, and we don't have to have just 10 characters that we focus in on. It can be literally a whole universe.
Yes, that will be very fun to see how they do all that. I love broad, expanded stories, so I'm excited.
Totally.
This will be fun.
Guys, you can follow the Nerd Morning channel on various platforms. It has an Instagram, a Twitter, a Facebook, all of those found at Nerd Morning, and like things are done on different platforms, and so going to all the different platforms is super worthwhile. For example, if you're interested in superheroes and comics, I do a daily review on Instagram talking about the comics, and so that's something that might interest you, particularly on that platform. So check all of those out. It's going to be a really worthwhile thing for you to have and to explore into a little bit more into the Nerd Morning world. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate you guys spending time with us as we go hang out and talk about some of these really, really awesome things. And we'll catch you guys next time.